welcome. Thank you so much for joining me for Season 2, Episode 2 of the Active Health Podcast. I am Dr. Juliet McGrattan, author, speaker, and former GP on a bit of a mission to help people find good health and happiness through putting on a pair of running shoes. Now, you can download this show on all of your favorite podcast apps. Just search Active Health, and you can listen to Season 1 there as well. As always, I'm very grateful to Wisp Sports for hosting this, so please do give them a follow on social media at Wisp Sports, and you can find me at Dr. Juliet McGrattan. Do come and join me as I chat to both runners and health experts. We're going to dig into the problems that women face when they're trying to stay active. From perspiration to piles, there are no taboo topics. And today's show, we are going to concentrate on strength and conditioning. Now, runners, please don't groan. Please don't reach for your phone to switch it off. Please stay with me. I know runners, and I speak from personal experience, we're notoriously bad at doing strength and conditioning. We just want to run. We don't want to squat and lunge and lift weights. But I also know that if you can incorporate strength and conditioning work, the rewards are great. So I really want to talk about this topic and why it is so important for runners to do that and make that effort. But also I want to get some advice on how we can stay motivated to actually keep on doing it regularly. I don't just mean sort of tricks to fit it into our day. I mean how to actually change our mindset so that we think differently about it. So I've asked Chantel Oakley, my guest today, to tackle this topic. Chantel is the CEO of Oakley Health and Fitness. She's an AFAA and TRX certified group fitness instructor and an ACE certified health coach. Now, she's been an athlete all her life, and her life does include having 4 boys. So I know she fully understands the challenges that many women face with their fitness as they go through normal life events. Now, Chantel's Instagram feed is one that I personally turn to when I'm lacking in motivation for doing strength work. She's there looking strong, awesome, sharing loads of tips and ideas. And her clients include complete beginners right through to professional athletes, stay-at-home parents, celebrities. She's worked with non-profits and international corporations, including Nike Sports. So I know that we're going to get some great advice and inspiration from Chantel. So just to say hello and welcome, Chantel.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on here with you.
Brilliant. Thank you. I want to kind of get straight into this topic really, because there is so much I want to talk about. But perhaps first, maybe just tell me about your last run. Tell me whatever you like. Where did you go? What was it like?
Yes, absolutely. I love running. My last run was just last week, and it was about a 3 or a 4 mile run. I personally, and I guess I'm just maybe a little sick in the head. I love running hills just because it's hard and it's challenging and it kind of gives a little bit of an adrenaline rush. So my last run included a 3 to 4 mile jog around my neighborhood, which included some hill and sprint work, and the weather was beautiful and the fall colors were out. It was gorgeous. It was fantastic. I loved it.
Autumn running is the best. When we're recording this in November, aren't we? And the leaves are amazing at the moment.
So beautiful. And I find that the temperature in the autumn is great. I feel like around 50, 55 degrees is like perfect running temperature. It's not too chilly to where, you're just trying to stay warm, but it's not so hot that your body is working hard to cool off. So it's like, I think the ideal running conditions are in the fall.
I have to
personal preference.
I do agree, although I do quite like spring.
Yes, that's true.
So lots of hills. I have to run hills because of where I live too, and I know that they are very good for me, but they are challenging. They're your favorite. Maybe are you a glutton for punishment? Would you say?
I think I must be. I think I have this side to my personality that likes to be challenged, and I like to do things that are hard, because I think what happens, and I've seen this in those that I train, is I do it and then it's like I'm reminded of how strong I am, and it's super motivating and it encourages me, and for me it's even a way that I channel maybe some stress and anxiety into a hard workout. And it's just kind of this mental reminder, like, you can do this, like not just the run, but whatever hard stuff you got going on in life, you can do it, you can tackle it. You're stronger than you give yourself credit for. Definitely. And I think those hills and things are a really good way to get some strength work in, aren't they? Just to kind of getting the double effect of the run and the cardio, and maybe some strength exercise from the hills themselves. Am I right? Oh, yes. I feel like, granted, I'm not a running expert. My expertise would lie more in some of the strength training and HIIT training and, general physical training. But what I have found is that when I incorporate hills into my workouts, whether I'm training for an actual run, which I have done, or just training in general, it's kind of I've found the biggest bang for the buck, because I'm working my body so hard. It gets me in really good cardiovascular shape, but it's also really strengthening my muscles at the same time. So I think that's probably why I love it too, is it's very efficient, even though it's hard. Yeah, I'm all about being efficient, getting, like you say, bang for your buck. So what do you think strength and conditioning does for runners? What are the benefits? How can you sell it to us? Oh, for sure. So first off, I totally understand people that are runners. Like, there's a difference between someone who enjoys running and a runner, and runners love running and they're good at it. And they hit that runner's high, and it's like their happy place, right? It's their safe place is running. And so I totally understand the maybe not wanting to cut that out or move away from that. But what I've found is that when you incorporate strength training into your workouts, in addition to your running, you're going to decrease the chances of getting injury. So it's great for injury prevention, but it also will increase your endurance, and it will increase your cardiovascular endurance. So it will really enhance your running performance, as well as help prevent injuries. So there's really not a downside to it, I think. So how about if you are a runner and, you're fine, you're progressing, you feel like your training's going well, you don't struggle with injury. Can you get by without doing specific strength and conditioning? I mean, I think that some of it depends on your goals, right? If you have a race that you're training for and you're wanting to improve your time, you're going to need to incorporate some strength and conditioning. I have not met many runners that have only focused on running that at some point haven't started to experience some of their body breaking down, whether it's some back issues, or a lot of times they'll have issues with their hips or their knees. And some of that is because they're not strength training and not working other parts of their body. So the human body, and Juliet, you know this because you're in the medical field, the human body is so efficient that it will find the most efficient way possible to work without having to do too much, right? Because it's so efficient. But what happens is we will overtrain certain muscles. So if I'm only running, my body will only use those certain muscles to focus on running, and then other supporting muscles and ligaments and tendons aren't going to get worked as much. And then eventually it will lead to some aches and pains and injury. Whereas if you take a comprehensive approach and you're running, but you're also strength training, it's more holistic in nature. And so you're tending to your whole body, which will prevent either injury in the moment, or it will for sure prevent it down the road. Not to mention, as women, as we age, it's important that we focus on strength training, just even to prevent, the early onset of osteoporosis and increase our bone density, those types of things. Yeah, definitely. And how often do we need to do it to get those injury prevention benefits and those other benefits you mentioned? Is 10 minutes once a week enough? She says, crossing her fingers. Right. Well, I think ideally you want to do about twice a week, and you want to strength training. it can take a long time, or it can be as short as you want. I tend to take the approach with people that I work with, like, we're going to have what I call a just do something mentality to start, because it will prevent us from kind of talking ourselves out of it. So for example, if as a runner, if I were to tell you, really, you should be strength training twice a week for 60 minutes a session, you would probably be like, I don't have time for that. And if I do have time, I don't want to cut that much time out of my running, which is understandable. And so at that point in time, I would say, well, what could you start with? Like, what would you reasonably twice a week know that you'd be willing to put into it? And maybe you would say 20 minutes. And then I'd say, then start with 20 minutes of strength training. Start there. And then what happens is you'll start to see the benefit of it. You'll get comfortable with it. And then you'll be a little bit more open to increasing how much time you put into it, because you see that it's really enhancing your running, you're feeling stronger, you're seeing some more muscle definition. And so that kind of helps increase the motivation a little bit.
I really like that, actually. I think the temptation is to think, right, I'm going to start strength and conditioning, and set yourself a big program, like complete overhaul, and then not succeed. It's difficult to keep up with, isn't it, if you give yourself too big a target?
Yeah. We as human beings, and this isn't everyone, but a lot of times we're notorious for what's called all or nothing thinking. And it's this concept that I'm either all in, doing it 110%, or if I can't do that, why should I do it at all? And I would say the majority of what I do is trying to help people avoid all or nothing behavior. And I found the best way to do that is to adopt a just do something mentality, because that's what's going to help you to maintain consistency and sustainability and stick with it.
Something better is always better than nothing, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
And here's a question. So I know that lots of runners have various home weights, and maybe they have access to a gym, but there are plenty of people just doing bodyweight exercises like squats and lunges. Is that enough, or do we really need to look at investing in some weights?
Yeah, I think to start, body weight is great. I think there's some benefits to it in that you can do it anywhere. If maybe you can't afford to buy gym equipment, or maybe you're living somewhere where gyms are still shut down, and so it's hard to get to the gym. So body weight is great. It's a great way to get you comfortable with what your body can do, right? So moving your body in a different way. It's also a great way to ease into strength training safely without hurting yourself, because you can get comfortable with the movements and the proper technique and the proper form. So a lot of what I have people do does start with body weight. As you train though, and if you want to continue to develop your strength, you're going to need to add resistance. And so that can even come in the form of resistance bands. Even if you just bought one set of medium-sized dumbbells, there are so much that you can do with that. I have a program coming out. It looks like we're going to launch it in the spring, and it's with weights, it's with dumbbells. But my goal was, if you only had one set of dumbbells, what are exercises that you could do and still get benefits from strength and developing strength with only one set of dumbbells? And so some of it just requires some creativity, but also some flexibility to go, okay, so I don't have anything. What can I do? I would say start with some squats, lunges, push-ups, planks. All of those will benefit you. Going back to what we just talked about, something is better than nothing. And then over time, as you feel more comfortable and confident and are ready to make it a little bit more challenging, figure out a way that you can incorporate some resistance, whether that's through resistance bands or weights.
I love that idea of one set of dumbbells, because I think it's quite intimidating when you look at Instagram maybe, and you look at influencers, and in the background they've got racks in their home with all these different weights, and then you go online and try and buy something and you don't really know what you're looking at, and just the idea that you know one set could be enough at least to get you going is really reassuring, I think.
Oh, 100%. I guarantee you that if you only had a set of 8-pound dumbbells, there is so much strength-wise that you could do with those 8-pound dumbbells, and it would do everything that we talked about. It would help decrease injury from the amount of running that you're doing, and it would help enhance performance of your running as well, just with one set of 8-pound dumbbells.
Brilliant. Love that. Oh, okay. So I've got my dumbbells. I've got my one little resistance band. I've got my list of body weight exercises. If I do, because we kind of all develop a little routine, you know, the ones that we like to do. If I just keep doing that little routine over and over again, is that okay? Is that enough? Can I get by with one little routine? Can you give me some advice?
Right. Yeah. So again, if we're trying to think about sustainability, could you get by? Absolutely. Would you experience the full benefits? The full benefits are going to come when you're mixing things up consistently. Again, it's like we want to kind of trick our body and make our body go like, wait, I haven't worked those muscles before. And so then it activates those muscles and it gets us stronger all around. And so I'm a pretty big proponent of having as much variety as possible. Now, I understand that could feel so overwhelming to somebody. And so I would suggest like, hey, find 5 to 10 exercises that you're like, I know I could do these, and cycle through those for maybe a few weeks or maybe a month and kind of mixing them up. And maybe you mix up the number of repetitions that you do, or maybe you mix up the amount of time, or maybe you do it one day just body weight and one day with dumbbells. Add variety where you can. And then as you feel comfortable with those, there's so many resources out there. Add in 5 to 10 more and just make it like a gradual process. There's a saying, and the saying is, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer is just one small bite at a time. And so start small and find 5 to 10 strength training exercises that you're like, I could do these. And then as you get comfortable with those, find some new ones and just kind of keep adding them in gradually.
Any tips on form? Because obviously you're maybe working with somebody one-to-one, you can give them loads of tips and advice, but what about people who are just going online and taking the exercises and having a bash themselves? Any warning signs, anything we should particularly pay attention to?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, strength training really it is so actually focused on your core. Even if you're doing a squat or bicep curls, the stronger and more engaged your core is, the more it's going to protect your body from maybe hurting itself. So when I'm training people, and if we're doing squats, the first thing that I'll tell them is focus on engaging your core, focus on sucking belly button to spine. So it's just kind of a visual to help you to think of tightening up your core, because when you do that, it's going to give support to your back. Other little things that I like people to think about is you want to always think about having good posture. So shoulders down and back, your chest is out, your chin is up. We're trying to keep your spine in alignment. Other things to think about, if you're squatting or lunging as you come down, you should be able to see the tips of your toes. If you can't, it means that you need to adjust and shift your weight back a little bit. When we come down into a squat or lunge, and if we can't see the tips of our toes, it means we're going to put too much pressure on our knees, and eventually it's going to start to hurt. So those are probably the cues that I bring up the most: is tight core, good posture, make sure that we're taking care of your knees.
Brilliant. 3 really useful tips there. Thank you. So how quickly are we going to change? Are we going to see a difference, not just in the muscle definition, but in our running within a few weeks, or is it going to take months?
Right. Great question. So, you know, like anything, it takes time. Especially where I live, you know, in America, we are so like, I want to see results now. I want it now. We don't have a lot of patience, and it just, anything worth doing, and if it's going to last, it's going to take time. And so generally I would say give it about 8 to 12 weeks. So 2 to 3 months, and you will see a substantial difference. You'll see a difference in your performance, your speed, your endurance. Your body will you will literally feel stronger. And you'll also, aesthetically, you'll start to see some nice, you know, muscle definition, which always feels good.
That's good. So 2 to 3 months, yeah, a little bit of patience required.
I know. I wish it could be the like this, snap your fingers, 2 weeks later. And you might start to notice a difference sooner than that. But generally, it's going to be about 2 to 3 months. And that's 2 to 3 months of staying consistent. So if I'm only doing it once a week, it's going to take longer. But if you're sticking to it consistently twice a week, I'd say for about 30 minutes is probably the sweet spot. That's a good number to land on as far as length of time. If you're consistently twice a week for about 30 minutes, give it a couple months and you will start to see a difference and you'll be really pleased with it.
Chantel, I know you've had so many clients over the years. I don't know whether do you notice a difference in the kind of attitude between men and women towards strength work?
Yeah, in my experience, I feel like men have generally been more open to strength work. It's unfortunate. I think some of that's just even cultural. Like men want to look bigger and more muscular. And so they associate that with strength training. They want to be strong and powerful. And I feel like there is a change happening for the good when it comes to women's fitness. But I feel like for a long time, women kind of shied away from strength training because they were afraid of getting too big and too bulky, which is changing, but which is unfortunate because unless you're lifting really, really heavy weights and increasing your calorie intake substantially, you are not going to get big and bulky from strength training. You're just going to feel stronger and become stronger and a little bit more toned, and actually increases your metabolism. So there's really just so many benefits of it. But yeah, I feel like generally I've seen men are a little bit more open to it. And in the past, women have needed a little bit more convincing, although I do see that changing, which I find encouraging.
Do you think there's anything we can do to encourage women to overcome that sort of hesitation or the barriers that crop up?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I have done as a trainer is I think just even just logically kind of walking women through it, kind of like I did just now, like the amount of weights that you'd have to lift and the amount of calories that you'd have to consume to get bulky, which is what a lot of us can be so afraid of. It's insane. Like you aren't going to do that. And then also like, let's redefine what does it mean to feel or look beautiful, and let's embrace how strong we are as women and not shy away from it. Let's harness it. Let's embrace it, and let's use it and be proud of it, because women are amazing. We are so strong in so many ways. And I feel like it's happening. The more that I see women tap into that and embrace that, man, it's fun to watch because they really start to become encouraged.
Yeah, I think exactly as you say, it is becoming more accepted, and thankfully the impression of a healthy body does now include some muscle, I think, for a lot of people. But like you say, that there are many women who still struggle and worry that if they start lifting, they are going to get bulky. And yeah, there's still a lot of work to do, I think, isn't there? But we are getting somewhere. Yeah,
it's what we're trying to do, and I would include both you and I in this, is we're trying to shift some culture in the narrative of fitness towards women. And I heard this great analogy once, and it just talked about it's like turning a cruise ship. So cruise ships are massive, these massive boats, and you can turn them, but it takes time and consistency, and it happens slowly, but eventually it does happen. And I think for a while now, the cruise ship in regards to culturally what we say about women's bodies and what women can do to their bodies, we've been trying to turn that cruise ship. And I think we're starting to see some evidence of that. And I know I'm proud to be a part of that, as I'm sure you are as well. And I'm excited to see what that entails for the future.
Definitely echo that sentiment. Can we switch tack slightly, because I want to talk a little bit about motivation, because we do often have really good intentions, and I think sometimes the methods that we're using to stay motivated don't really work because they fizzle out after a couple of months. So what are we doing wrong, please?
Right. I think some of it comes back to what we spoke about earlier, that all or nothing kind of thinking and mindset. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll have a goal, and then we'll establish what we think is this really good plan to meet that goal. And maybe it is a good plan, but it's not always sustainable. It's not always reasonable. And so we can't stick with it because it's just a little bit too much. And then what I have seen happen, and this is so much of what I talk to, is how I think in general, in life, but in fitness, we allow our motivation to come from a place of shame and guilt. Like I should be strength training to prevent injury. I should do this. I shouldn't have done that. And shame is not a good long-term motivator. We end up getting discouraged. We end up getting frustrated. It starts to feel like this thing that we're never going to get better at. We're never going to improve. And so we lose motivation. And so what I like to do is I like to just kind of normalize the journey, that this is not easy, and it can feel frustrating at times, and it takes time and patience, and there's acceptance in that, right? So we start on a foundation of acceptance of just where you are right now. And then what I like to do is go, hey, let's dream about where do you want to go? Like who do you want to be? What's a goal that you have? If we were to think of this as a journey, what's the destination that you're moving towards? And then we talk about it, and we talk about like, what's a plan that we know we can implement? Like, without a doubt, I can do this, and we implement it. And then what I find from there is, instead of being motivated by shame, we now become motivated by hope. Excuse me. Hope of where I could go, how this could be, how I could feel. And I have this plan in place that I know I can do. And it's a really empowering way to motivate. And it's an empowering process to get people excited about their journey.
That's brilliant. I think that's brilliant. So move from shame to hope. 2 simple words, but they mean so much, don't they? Gosh.
They do.
Can you give us an example? It's maybe someone that you've helped who's made that journey. Anyone you can, obviously not giving away personal information, but a story you can share.
Yes, absolutely. So this past year, I created a virtual fitness program, and it got picked up by Nike Sports. And it was a 6-week, pretty intensive, holistic training program. So with this program, they were assigned workouts by me 5 days a week. So the whole goal was, how do we make this sustainable? We talked a lot about the just do something mentality. They got workouts. They got some a nutrition curriculum that taught them how to have a healthy mindset towards eating and nutrition. And then they also participated in a curriculum that helped develop like inner strength and resilience. And so I had a group of ladies I was working with who lived in the Los Angeles area. And one of the gals had never really made fitness a consistent part of her life, and joined this group because her friend convinced her to do it. And part of the journey with this 6-week program is we would have weekly Zoom meetings to check in with one another and encourage one another. And she joined this program, and she was like, I don't know if I can do any of these exercises. And so I just encouraged her. I said, well, let's have a just do something mentality. So we can modify anything, and I can modify the modifications if we need to. And so why don't you just do what you can when you can? Let's just be consistent. And so she did. She stuck to it. And about a month into the program, so 4 weeks into the program, I get a message from her, and she said, I just went for a run today. And so for a lot of us, we're like, oh yeah, great. That's exciting. And I congratulated her, and she said, no, you don't understand. She said, I have literally never, ever run in my entire life. And I just went out and ran a mile today. She said she was at her daughter's soccer practice, and she was trying to just do something and move. She didn't have time to do the assigned workout that day. So she was at soccer practice and thought, well, I'll go for a walk. And she was walking, and out of nowhere, she had this thought, and she was like, maybe I should try running. And so she tried running, and she was like, I feel pretty good. And she kept going, and she kept going. And she ran a mile. This woman was in her 40s and had never, ever run for any length of time in her entire life. And she went out and ran a mile. And all she said that she could think when she was done was, I felt so strong, and I'm pretty sure I could have gone farther. And that all just came from like, let's just do what we can and see where it goes. We're going to trust the process, and it will get you further in your journey than if you didn't do anything at all.
Oh, that's a goosebump story, isn't it? That really is.
I was so proud of her.
So, I mean, have you any tips for those of us that are maybe identifying with the should have done this, should do the other, to help us change to a more hope-oriented mindset?
Yeah. Yes. I feel like, I think there's a few things. A lot of times what I encourage those that I work with to do is to adopt what I call as a day one mindset. And a day one mindset is just this way of thinking that says, I'm not defined by yesterday's choices. What I decided yesterday, what I decided or did 5-10 minutes ago, it does not have to define what I do moving forward. It doesn't define my tomorrow or my rest of the day or my rest of the week. I have the ability right now to stop, to hit reset, to recalibrate, to remember where I want to go, to re-implement my plan if I kind of veered off of it, and say day one starts now and start moving forward. And I have probably found that to be one of the most impactful ways to shift mindset, that in addition to the just do something, just because I think there is an element of, in order to combat shame, there has to be an element of acceptance. We have to acknowledge what the problem is. And acceptance doesn't mean that we're okay with it and we're just going to stay there. It just means that we see it there. Like, we accept that it's there. I know that my choices don't define who I am, and I'm strong, and I have the ability to shift and move forward. I'm strong enough to do that. And so I think having some acceptance, embracing that strength that we have within us, and then just kind of harnessing our thoughts in such a way that we're constantly moving forward, even if it's slowly. We're just doing the next best thing.
Great stuff. Yeah. I love that. Again, so much of what you're saying, I love the acceptance and the fact that what you did yesterday didn't work out. It really doesn't matter. It was yesterday, and let's go day one.
Yeah. We just attach. And by we, I mean, I think everybody, we attach so much of our value based on our performance. When the reality is who we are and how valuable we are as a person has nothing to do with our performance, right? So performance is just something that's there that we get to do. And I think it actually increases the more that we embrace our value, the value and worth that we have, just because we're human beings. And if we stay in that place, well, then we're kind of filled with some hope and some joy and some excitement and gratitude. And I think performance happens a little bit more naturally.
If you love it and you're enjoying it, you're going to naturally perform better, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. Hence people that love running,
I can see your enthusiasm and, bubbling over in your words, and it's so motivating speaking to you. What are you working on at the minute? What's your latest project? Go on, share a little bit of what's going on at Chantel Oakley.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. I'm super excited. Well, I'm working hard right now. I'm going to launch some fitness programming in January on my own virtual platform. And so it will actually include some strength training with resistance bands, and it will include a curriculum that is everything that I kind of touched on: how to become motivated, how to stay motivated, how to land in a place of acceptance, how to stay consistent. So all of my programming is holistic in nature, and that you always have a fitness component, a mindset component, and a nutrition component. So I'm working hard. We are hard launching that in January, which I'm very excited about. I'm really proud of it. And I'm also in the process of developing some relationships with some organizations down in the Los Angeles area to implement my programming into their organizations. And then I'm working hard at booking up. I love doing live in-person workshops. And so I'm just kind of booking out my 2022 for what those, where I will go with those. I did one in Los Angeles just last fall. I'm looking at hoping to go back there in the spring, potentially Nashville, Tennessee. So yeah, so I'm excited. There's a lot going on, and I love it. In addition to chasing around 4 crazy boys. So
I bet that's a workout.
It is.
Well, congratulations on all of that. Wow, that sounds amazing. And I'm really grateful, because I feel like you've given us some really practical take-home points that we can all go and try, when it comes to actually doing strength exercises, but also reasons to do it in terms of running, but also in addition to that, just thinking about our mindset and making sure that we're setting out with healthy intentions and doing this for the right reasons, with the motivation of hope rather than shame. So that's really, really wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me, Chantel.
Thank you for having me. This has been wonderful. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been great.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me for season 2, episode 2 of this Active Health podcast. So just a little reminder, you can download the show on your usual podcast app. If you do that, please do leave me a review. It really helps to spread the word and for people to find this podcast. If you want to find Chantel, her website is chanteloakley.com, and she's on Instagram and Facebook at Chantel Oakley. That's Chantel Oakley. Find me on my website, drjulietmcgrattan.com. And finally, another thanks to our host, Wisp Sports. You can follow them. Please do enrich your feed with their conversations, news, stories, motivation from the world of women's sports. Have a look at their website, wispsports.com, and their social media handle is @wispsports. So that is all for now. Please do join me again for the next episode of the Active Health Podcast.